Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderEd, Blender HD, if you want to follow me on Twitter. And it's Tuesday, December 20th. It's getting cold outside. It's getting cold. It's getting cold in the DFS streets, right? We'll be talking about whatever the hell you want. It's Toss-Up Tuesday. It's Toss-Up. Tossing up. It's up to you in the YouTube chat. We can talk about the NFL slate coming up on Saturday, NBA, just general stuff, whatever you want. And the totals, wow. I just brought up the NFL stuff. I mean, some of these totals, geez, what the hell's going on? What's going on in Cleveland? Is it supposed to be like are they supposed to get like an avalanche or something like that? I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen a total that was 31.5. Cleveland, New Orleans, 17-14. I mean, look at this. Look at this stuff. Are there any points going to be scored? Any fantasy points going to be scored on Saturday? Look at these totals. 37.5. This is, Detroit, Carolina, 44.5. Oh, my God. That's a high score, right? Buffalo, Chicago is barely over 40. KC, Seattle, okay, I guess that's the game to target, maybe. Minnesota, okay, that's inside a dome. Minnesota, Giants. Bengals, Patriots is barely over 40. Tennessee, Houston, that's like nothing, 37.5. San Fran, Washington's under 40. I guess the Cowboys against the Eagles. But I'm assuming, Gardner Minshew is going to start for Hurts for the Eagles? It's, got a lot of low totals. A lot of low totals. Oh, Adam Eisen in chat says 8 degrees, wind and snow in Cleveland. As of right now. Right? Look what happened. Look at what happened on Saturday with Buffalo. Everyone was talking about, oh my God, there's going to be a million inches of snow. And during game time, it was fine, right, on the field. So maybe it won't be. But, obviously the total's low regardless. But whatever. Give me those thumbs ups in the chat. Give me the thumbs early in the morning. Bart B, Wataz, Adam, Dana Lodgins, Dave Clark. Suki's late. 11:01 a.m. Wow, woke up late. So what do you want to talk about? Talk about whatever you want. It's Toss Up Tuesday. I was talking with a couple of DFS players last night about how I learned how to play DFS, right? Because now there's so much more information now, so many more tools, so much more content, strategic on how to play, and people still disregard it. 95% of people will watch this show and go, "Nah, ain't gonna do it." And they'll be losing players long term, and that's fine. They're fine. Play for entertainment. Don't listen to me. It's perfectly fine. But how did I learn? I learned primarily by reading old RotoGrinders content. And there are books. The 4 Smart People series. That was by Jonathan Bales. Once I found Jonathan Bales' content, I just read everything and watched every show that he was ever on. That's what I did. So, you can even do that now. So I went to John Bales. He has all these articles. Now, a lot of the concepts that he's talking about are kind of rudimentary compared to what we know now. But the concepts still apply. Is GPP success all about seeking upside? Late swap tips. Tracking your results. My approach to giant 50-50s, how to benefit from randomness, right? These are from like 2014, right? 2014, 2015. The effective overlay on bankroll management. But just the concepts that are in here are like core game theory-based strategic concepts for anything. But obviously, when I was first starting playing DFS, I don't know what I was doing. I was looking for that type of content. Okay, where's the poker content for DFS? Like that's how I learned how to play poker, where it's not just you make the best hand and win the pot. Like no, the game has to be much more strategic than that. So the two people that I gravitated to the most back in 2015, 2016. Were Jonathan Bales and Drew Dinkmeyer. Okay? And the 2 quotes, and I think each of them have a quote, a very well-known quote, attributed to them that highlight probably the two core concepts of DFS. Like if you were to distill how to play DFS into two core concepts, the quotes by each of them, which were made 7 years ago, plus years ago, whatever, still apply today, and they still matter. Jonathan Bales, his quote that he's had in multiple of his articles and shows back then was about DFS is not about scoring the most points. It's about scoring more points than your opponents. And that's the concept of relative value. That's what I do. That's main concept in theory of DFS. Relative value. The value of your points versus your opponent's points. When people talk about, oh, I need to score 220 in NFL to win a GPP, like that doesn't mean anything. I need to score 400 in NBA. That doesn't mean anything. You just need to score more points than your opponents. That's it. You want to come in first place, just score one more point than the second place finisher. It doesn't matter what the score is. So then when you fully understand and grasp that concept, then you think in terms of, well, how do I get points that my opponents don't have? And how do I avoid points that my opponents think they're getting that they end up not getting? And that's where ownership comes in and the relative value of points. So Jonathan Bales, his quote, it's not about scoring the most points. It's about scoring more points than your opponents. They sound the same, but they're not. That's the concept of relative value. And then Drew Dinkmeyer, way back before I even started playing. I started playing October 2015. His quote, and he still says it today. It's not about how often you win. It's about how much you win when you do. And he's altered it and shortened it. He said it that type of thing very slightly different ways. It's not about winning, it's how much you win when you win. Like something like that. Which what does that highlight? The concept of expected value. It's not how often you win, it's about how much you win when you win. The same concept in any gambling endeavor. Like, oh, this bet is plus 800. It's like, yeah, you're not gonna win that often. But if you should be getting paid, if the actual probability is plus 400 and you're getting paid plus 800, that means you're profitable. Just understand it'll only happen, 1 out of 5 times. So expected value, that's especially for GPPs. When people are like, oh, I've been cashed. Right? My favorite is, I've been playing a couple of weeks and I rarely ever cash. Right? I've been playing for a month. Right? This is what you'll hear. I've been playing for a month. I've been playing 5 days a week for a month. I've only cashed, I cashed 4 times. That's it. I've only cashed 4 times. I played 5 days a week for a month, and I've only cashed 4 times. Am I doing something wrong? Jordan, I listen to your stuff. I listen to it. I'm trying to implement it. I played NBA Monday through Friday for a month, for 4 weeks. Not only have I not come in first, but I've only even cashed 4 times in that month. One time I cashed for 2x, another cash was 2x, another one was 3x, another one was 5x. But I only cashed 4 times this month, playing 5 days a week. I'm highlighting it, so hopefully it sinks into you what it means, right? Someone that doesn't understand DFS will think of that and go, yeah, that sucks. You only cash 4 times in 20 slates? Wow, you must be bad. You must be getting bad advice. But think about it. Most GPPs, if you're playing it, only pay out the top 20% or so, right? 80% of the field will not get paid in a GPP. So if everyone was equal, if every lineup was equal, and you played for 5 days, your expectation on average would be to cash 1 out of those 5 days that you place in a cashing spot. 80% of the time you won't, and 20% of the time you will. So 1 day you will cash, and 4 days you won't. If you play 5 days a week, which means you do that 4 times for a month. How many times do you cash on average? 4 times. So when you come to me and you say, "Oh, I only cashed 4 times in 20 slates," I go, "And what's the problem here? Like, isn't that bad?" It's like, "No, that's expected." How much money did you win when you cashed out of those 4 times? It's like, well, 2x, 2x, 3x, 5x. It's like, okay. So what's your overall ROI? It's like, well, negative or whatever. It's like, okay, it's going to keep on going down. Try to make, you're going to cash 4 out of 20 times, or even less than that. Are you playing lineups that could get even further up on that pay scale? That's what you should be concerned about. Now, how often do you cash? Because you're playing lineups where you're cashing more often but not winning as much, you're gonna bleed money away. So it's not about how often you win, how often you cash, how often. Who cares how often? How much did you win when you win? Right? I get trolls every once in a while in my DMs, or sometimes not in my, sometimes just pure mentions. I don't know how anyone takes advice for you. I barely see you win. Right. And they're looking at are like screenshots. Right. I've only seen you post. I think so. I've only seen you post like 3 or 4 big screenshots this year. I go, well, thank you then. Say, well, I don't know how people listen to you when I only see you win big like 3 or 4 times in a year. I go, well, how many more times should I be winning? I make a lot of money winning 3 or 4 times a year. Like, that's where most of my profit comes from. That's, well, welcome to DFS. That's the point. No one wins that amount every other day. It's like, that doesn't exist. So you should be playing in a manner, if you're a GPP player, almost all the equity is in the top spots. So you're aiming for that. So when you win, when I play the 555 in MMA, I'm aiming for 30 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, whatever it is. How many times I cash doesn't matter as much. If I could play that every day, every week, if I win first place twice, it's a ton of profit. And how many MMA slates are there in a year? Maybe 40, 42, something like that. I could lose all the other slates. I could not cash in any of those other slates. If I win first place twice, I'm wildly profitable. It's not about how often you win. It's about how much you win when you win. That's the core of expected value anyway. So once you have those 2 concepts, they rule everything in DFS. I mean, everything essentially is part of those 2 concepts of either relative value or expected value. So understanding both of them, you won. That's it. You take that tree underneath there, and everything's related to those 2. Those 2 I learned 7 years ago from Jonathan Bales and Drew Dinkmeyer and other people. There were other people, right? You go through some of these articles, and when we used to have the forums, the old forum posts, a lot of the older videos aren't up anymore that they were back in 2015, 2016. Like you used to, I would go back to 2014, some NFL show from week 7 slate, something like that, and just watch and just Jonathan Bales is on. Let me watch and see. I don't know the players or anything. I'm just trying to hear concepts of like how are people? How do you think about the game? Just like how do you think like a professional DFS player? And the thing that I was looking for back in 2015 was the theory of daily fantasy scores. Like DFS was big enough that I'm like, where's the theory of poker for DFS? No one made it. I decided to 2 years ago. I said, oh, if no one else is going to do it, I'm going to do it. There should be something like this. And there was. If you go through content over the course of, since DFS has been around, all these concepts are out there. People have written about it, piecemeal, this and here on shows, people mentioning stuff, but not all in one spot. So I'm looking like, where's the theory of poker for DFS? Well, I'll make it. And just like David Sklansky and Mason Malmuth, like they weren't the greatest poker players in the world, but they were successful middle limit professional players, cash game players. And they teach and then their teaching style is a little bit dry, but I mean, that's what I like. So why can't I do it? So there you go. So that's when I say I didn't invent these concepts. These concepts it's math. I didn't invent math. But how did I start thinking like a professional DFS player, about a profitable player? Primarily Jonathan Bales and Drew Dinkelmeyer. So all I needed to hear way back then is it's not about how often you win, but how much you win when you win. And then things start to click and you go, yeah, if I'm playing this contest and here's the payout curve and it's hockey sticks up over there, like I can't cash enough. If everyone was equal, if all lineups were equal, had the same expected value, like how do you make money without coming in the top spots? You can't. So the money that's in the around the cash line is almost irrelevant to you. Like you should be aiming for first. You're just not going to win that often. You're just going to be losing a lot until you win. Dave Clark says one day an amazing DFS player will say, I learned by watching Blender over and over and over again. Yeah, well, it could be you. It could be you. None of this is that complicated. James Aguirre says, if you guys are in a marriage you hate, just grind every slate DK offers this weekend. You'll thank me next week. Why? Why? So because that'll get you a divorce? I'm going to be playing Saturday's NFL slate. Not Sunday. But like my wife's family, whatever, they typically they hang out on one day. So we're going up on Christmas Day, not Christmas Eve. So on Saturday, it's just like any other day. Not doing anything special. A&S Comedy. The key to DFS is making sure the 20% you do cash, you get enough in the top 1% to pay it all back. That's correct. Welcome to GPP life. Now, if you're playing cash, if you're playing double ups, obviously that's different. If you're playing head to heads, that's a different game. But even though there are a lot of people that intellectually understand that you're only gonna maybe cash 10 to 20% of the time. And it's a matter of how much you win in those instances. People still don't have an emotional understanding of variance. Poker players do more than anything. That's why I think a lot of poker players are successful at DFS, or successful DFS players do have poker backgrounds. Where the variance in poker is like way less than it is in DFS. And poker has a ton of variance. Especially if you're a tournament poker player. more so than a cash game player. If you're a tournament poker player, imagine telling a tournament. Imagine going to a tournament poker player, okay, who professionally plays tournaments, so that they're going around the world. They're playing WPT events. They're playing, the World Series of Poker. They're playing all that type of stuff. Imagine going to them, going, "I don't think you're a very good poker player. I mean, you've only won 3 tournaments this year. That would be absurd. If you won three of the 10K plus buy-in large field tournaments like that, you'd be nominated for Player of the Year. You'd be like tournament poker Player of the Year. You won 3. If you played 30 tournaments in a year and you made like 5 final tables, like that's amazing. Okay? So think of that related to DFS. It's like, oh, I can't. Oh, you play every day, and you only won in Bloodfield GPP 3 or 4 times a year, or whatever. You only like, dude. That's great. That's the goal. It's the people that have not learned DFS, not learned statistics, not learned about relative value, expected value, variance, that don't understand that. They think it's a matter of, oh, if you're a good fantasy sports player, you could predict what's going to happen on Sunday. Oh, you didn't predict what happened on Sunday? Oh, you're bad. Doesn't matter how much it pays or whatever like that. Doesn't matter that Miles Sanders is 30% owned for no reason. Doesn't matter that you played a 5% Josh Jacobs. Oh, he didn't do well. It's like, but in comparison to what he could have done, Ramondre Stevenson was low owned this past week. How did you know that he was in 19 for 172? I didn't know anything. All I knew is that in his range of outcomes, that outcome exists much higher than 5% of the time of what he's going to be owned. That's it. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen on Sunday. Just comparing probabilities. That's it. That's all it is. Just comparing probabilities. That's why Clay Davis in the YouTube chat. Do you have a strategy for prize picks? Yeah, the strategy is to look at your projections, right? Your statistical projections for whatever you're looking at, and look at the line. And if there's a big enough discrepancy, bet the over or under on that. That's it. That's it. James McGuire, do you play baseball cash blender? I typically don't play double ups in MLB. I'll play the triple ups and quintuple ups. MLB, with the amount of variance there is very exploitable in the 3x, the 5x type contests. So this past season, I started playing 3-mans, 5-mans, triple ups, quintuple ups. And essentially what I'll do is I'll see what optimal lineups are going to be played. And I try to play a lineup that's like 3 or 4 points lower than that shares the least amount of people. And I purposely try to play the better players because I can predict their lineups better. So I'll play 3-mans with McLovin and BK Reader. And a lot of times I can predict exactly what they're going to play. Or one of like 3 or 4 lineups they're going to play. I aggregate projections, look at the bad optimal and go, okay, if most people are playing this, I'm going to try to find as much of a combinatorial difference between that gives up the least amount of projection. And because I'm sacrificing projection, I need to get 3x, 5x, 10x payout because of it. But a lot of times I'm competing against the same lineup. I'm hoping my opponents dupe. And if they don't dupe exactly, they're duping in 8 spots. They're duping in 6, 7, 8 spots. So if, If I could beat one of my opponents, I typically could beat all of my opponents, and then I get paid handsomely for that. You can do that in any sport. Just a matter of how predictive you could think the other lineups in your they have to be triples, ups, and quintuple. You have to get paid more. You're purposely playing a worse lineup. You're purposely playing a worse lineup. But your lineup, you're trying to play a lineup that is worse, but not is much less worse than you getting paid 3x to 5x. Right? It's a lineup that's 5% worse than your opponent's. Right? If it's 5% worse, you should be getting 1.1, right? Rather than 1x. Instead of doubling your money, you should get a little bit more than that. But when it comes to tripling your money, then you could play a lineup that is several points lower projected, especially if you know what your opponents are playing. So that's what I'd be doing more of. You can do that in any sport, as long as you're able to predict lineups. If you don't know how to predict, if you can't predict lineups, then how do you know that you're a 6v6 or a 4v4? You don't know. Then you end up playing it, and then now you end up playing it. You end up duping with someone else, and you go, I didn't know this guy. I don't know this lineup was going to be played. Like, how did you not? If you just ran aggregate projections, you would have gotten that lineup. So you need to know that in order to exploit it. Is that considered cash games? I don't know. The differentiate. No, you shouldn't be thinking in terms of cash and GPP. Every contest is different. We lump contests together as a designation, but you shouldn't be playing them the same. So yeah, cash contests tend to be head-to-heads, double-ups, triple-ups, three-mans, like cash. It's a poker term. And GPPs. Like, there's a big difference between playing the $3 play action with 7 million people in it or whatever and playing the Thunderdome with 32 people in it. I mean, like, it's two different things. They're both GPPs, but they're two completely different games. But we lump them all together as guaranteed prize payouts or guaranteed prize pools, because that's what it got. Tournaments, like, it's not really a tournament. We're using kind of these poker terms or terms that people, said from back in the day in DFS, 2011. But every contest is different. ANS Comedy says the biggest advice I took away from you is finding the weakest opponents. Been grinding tiers and showdowns and found it much easier to grind my bankroll. Yeah, that would be, yes. I said one of the number one thing that will affect your ROI, number one by far, is the opponents that you play. Right? And that comes down to that first concept, right? Jonathan Bales. Still, everything you could talk about comes down to those two quotes. Right? Oh, I'm going to find the weakest opponents. Well, it's not about scoring the most points. It's about scoring more points than your opponents. And if you can find opponents that on average score much less than you, then you don't need to score the high. You don't need to. Who cares about scoring the most points? Right? Imagine you build a lineup this past slate. I think the cash line and double ups was like 125. Imagine building a lineup that only scored 104 points and you made $10,000. You go, how did you do that? Well, you found someone. You found someone to play a 10K head-to-head that only scored 101. Like, that would be better than but your lineup was really bad in double ups. I said, yeah, but I found a week. I played against people that are worse than me. So I don't need to be the best. I just need to be better than them. Right? How do you find all those opponents? There aren't as many. You're probably not going to find a 10K head-to-head like that, but finding where the edges are. Well, everyone's playing this. Who cares what everyone is playing? What's your goal? The smaller the bankroll you have, the more picky you should be. You're like, I'm going to play $50 in volume. You should be playing the best $50 you can get in. The best possible. You're trying to play $5,000, you may not be able to find the first $50 that you find, like, we could really select and bum hunt and find the edge. Yeah, I'm going to play the turbo slate here. I'm going to play the tiers slate there. and find $5 of value there and $10 of value there, well, if you're playing $5,000 of volume, it doesn't make up that much, right? You're not going to find $5,000 worth of that type of edge. So I can understand not focusing so much on spending all your time trying to find $1 here and $1 there. But if you're playing on a small bankroll, you should be finding the biggest edges you possibly can. You should be very discerning with the bankroll allocation that you put in for a slate. Well, I'm going to play this double up because I played every week. Well, why? Because I played every week? That's not a reason. First, put in your money to places where you can get it in the best first. Then expand from there. I've talked to so many people that, like, they go, I play $100 worth of volume in cash games or something, and $20 in GPPs or whatever they do. They're like, I play the large single entry $25 double up, the large single entry $5 double up. I go, why are you playing in either of those? I said, yeah, but I'm playing the large stuff. Shouldn't I be playing the largest field possible? But I said, why aren't you just playing the $1 and the $2 stuff? I said, oh, I'm playing that also, but I play some of those. I said, why don't you play all of those? It's like the $1 double ups will not have like the top 300 or 400 cash players in it because they're limited. They're restricted from those contests. So why don't you just play all of them? You're only playing $100 worth of cash. You could play. Why can't you play $51 head-to-heads? Why can't you do that? $25 to $2 head-to-heads. You're done. Why do you even have to play any double ups? It's like, well, because I always play the double. Why? Why do you want to play contests with people that are highly profitable? Once you get up to the $5 contest, I'm in them, right? Papa Gates is in them. McLovin is in. Everyone's in them. Don't you want to avoid those people? Now, if you're playing $5,000 worth of volume, you can't avoid those people. Then I can understand. Then yeah, sure. In order to get the volume in, and you still have a positive ROI, maybe a smaller ROI, but you'll take more raw money then. But if you're only playing $50, $100 a slate, dude, you could, especially in the NFL, you got an entire week to pick out contests and really just spend every hour, turn on your alarm, then peruse the lobby. Go into the 3-mans and find people without an experience badge. Find the off slates, right? Find head-to-heads. And someone posted a $20 tiers head-to-head that I've never heard of. Someone without a badge. Well, there you go. There's your tiers lineup. Well, do I play any other No, you literally, for the tiers, may only be playing that $20 head-to-head. And that's it. That's literally it. But most likely, you have a decent advantage over that person, an inexperienced person. You're probably 60-40 or better against them. Natural, and there's how much volume are you playing? Well, I'm only playing like $200, $100, $200. Right, so $20 head-to-head is a lot of volume in comparison to what you're playing that week. But all you're doing is picking and piecing together. Where's the edge? Where can I find the weakest opponents? And based on the context of the slate, based on what my opponents are going to do, how could I exploit that the most? Instead, people think they start with, well, what lineup should I play? Should I play Christian McCaffrey this week? Is Justin Jefferson going to get a lot of targets? So it's like, dude, you can figure all that out like a half an hour before the slate starts. Like, who cares? You already got all the projections. You already got all the numbers. You got the ownership. Everything is going to be updated for you. The inactives are going to come in 90 minutes before lock, right? An hour before lock, you're going to have all that information. So you're going to have that already. It's Tuesday. What are you looking at? You should be looking at where are the bad players? Where are the good contests? Where should I play, right? FanDuel. Let me take a look at FanDuel. Let me take a look at Yahoo. And this is especially true if you're on a smaller bankroll. You could be so much more discerning. Get your money in real good. And you keep on getting your money in real good. You have a much higher ROI. And then you build your bankroll up much quicker that way. Then as you go up in volume, then you have to make sacrifices. Then it's like, Should I be spending 5 hours a week, bum hunting the $1 head-to-head lobby in tiers contests? Is there a better way to spend my time? Because maybe you only find 3 $1 head-to-heads. And back when you were only playing $50 a slate, 3 $1 head-to-heads that you could find of guys that are playing injured players was worthwhile. But now that you're playing $1,000 a slate, the extra $3, I'm going to spend 5 hours looking for that. Okay, I can understand you not doing it then. That's what you should be doing on a small bank. That's what you should do when you're a beginner, right? Because most players are going to be better than you. So if you can find people even worse than you, then you have more of a shot. Nbot says, found Blender May 2021. Okay. Not that long ago, right? A year and a half ago. Had my first win in January 2022, and I'm $20,000 total in 2022, plus 20,000. And I could certainly attribute my process to watching these videos in 2021, building lineups, not players. Well, thank you. Strawface 23 would love to hear more strategy and game theory stuff on small field stuff. I hate when it's always grouped together with all GPPs. It's all the same concept. There's no difference other than in smaller field GPPs, you're competing against less people, which means the score that you need to win is going to most likely be further and further away from the nuts, which means you could win with a lower score. And you have to beat less people. Because remember, it's not about scoring the most points. It's about scoring more points than your opponents. So because you're competing against less people, it means you don't need to sacrifice as much projection for relative value purposes. In the large field stuff, you have to beat 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 lineups. That lineup is probably you have to score more points because there's just more lineups that you're competing against. So what's the scale? That's all you should be thinking about it as a scale on the spectrum. You're playing a 10-man contest. Should you be? I'm going to sacrifice 20 points in projection. Like, why? That doesn't gain you any extra relative value. You could sacrifice 3 points in projection and plenty leveraged against 9 opponents. I mean, you probably don't even have to do that. At 1 point, you may be fine. You have enough equity now that it's like, oh, boom, done, plus EV. Large field, you're going to be playing practically a cash lineup. Got a lot of min cash equity, but you're sharing a lot of points with a lot of people in the field. That's the only difference. So in smaller field contests, you're going to play a higher projected lineup. But you also have to realize in smaller field contests, other people are playing high projected lineups also. And because more people are playing higher projected lineups, the higher projected players will be much higher owned. That's why you'll see, the guy that's 30% owned in the large field, maybe 55% owned in your small field contest. So a lot of the higher project, like the group of higher projected players from a point per dollar standpoint, the 6 or 7, they're going to be much higher owned than they would be in the large field because so many more people are playing them because they project well, which means there's more leverage available to you. There's more benefit in fading 1 or 2 of those players. Not all of them. You fade all of them, your projection will be too low. So you still got to play. You're probably still playing some chalky players because you don't need to play that low projected lineup. But you're going to sacrifice 5 points in projection or something like that, probably in a lot of contests. 5 points, 7 points, whatever it is. How do you drag that down and drag your ownership down also? Well, if you fade the 6 best projected plays, you're going to be too low projected. If you play the 6 highest owned players, you'll be very high projected, but you'll be very high owned also. So what's the middle ground for that? Well, if there were 6 chalky players, which 2 do I fade? Whichever 2 you want. Doesn't matter. You're playing lineups, not players. That's it. That's small field stuff. Well, it's the same as large field stuff, just scaled down. That's it. Well, how about if I'm playing a 3,000 entry contest? How come if I'm playing a 500 entry contest? It's all on the spectrum. There's no such thing as, well, this is small field, this is mid-size, this is what. No, you're thinking the same way no matter what size contest you're playing. You're building lineups, not players. You're building lineups, balancing projection versus ownership. And the more opponents that you're playing against, the more projection you're willing to sacrifice. As long as you're getting an ownership discount. But also understand that the size of the field, the number you're using for ownership is going to be different. So if you're building small field lineups using large field ownership numbers, you're not going to be as accurate. It's like, oh, well, Derrick Henry is going to be 35% owned, and he'd probably be 50% owned in what you're playing. Did you account for that? No. Well, you should. Your lineups may not be as leveraged or as plus EV as they could in the small field contest if you're using large field GPP ownership. A&S Comedy says the contest styles with the least amount of content attached to it is the best to grind. Yeah, that's true. Clay Davis says, can you please show me how to link the projection to the prize pick? I can't find the video where you show how to do it. It's a Chrome extension. Just download the Chrome. Number one, you have to be a RotoGrinders premium member. Right? And then you get the RotoGrinders prize picks tool. There you go. Put it in Chrome, and then you get the overlay. Or you could just go to the projection screen. All you have to do is click on the things that say those things. James Aguirre says, I found you get more leverage on the well-projected players than large field stuff as well. That's correct. So you get more value, quote, eating chalk in large field than you do in smaller fields. Yes, I've said this many times. I am technically more contrarian in small field than I am in large field. And that's primarily because most DFS players don't understand the difference between chalk and ownership. Oh, I got to fade the chalk. Like, chalk is just a term. It's a descriptor. Chalk is, I think, more of a raw descriptor. Who's the chalk? You're basically saying who are the players that are going to be the highest owned. But that doesn't tell you anything. Oh, I know in DFS, and I need to get leverage by fading people, by fading high ownership. Like, that's not true. That would be incorrect. You actually may be actively getting worse lineups because you're fading chalk. You go, what? So I need to play chalk? It's like you're using the term chalk wrong. That's just the raw descriptor of ownership. What you probably should be doing is playing under-owned players more than over-owned players. So chalk just means high-owned. It doesn't mean over-owned. Especially in a game like basketball and NBA. A lot of times you're playing a lot of chalk and you go, well, why am I playing 64% owned X? He's the highest owned player. Shouldn't I be fading him? I said, yeah, but look at his projection. He goes, yeah, he's projected extremely well. Yeah. So he should be 84% owned, not 64% owned. So actually, he's under-owned. He's the highest owned player, and he's under-owned, which means you're actually gaining relative value by playing him. So why aren't you playing him in like all of your lineups? Because he's the chalk. That's improper understanding of relative value. So in NFL and in large field, a lot of times the highest owned players may actually be under-owned because there's a lot of people that play like NFL Millie contests that are playing really suboptimal lineups. So you may find players that are like, he's 22% owned, but he probably should be 28%. Right? So you play more of them, actually. It's like, you play a lot of the higher owned players in large field GPPs. I said, yeah, because a lot of the higher owned players are the high projected players, and they're actually under-owned. There's too much of the field aren't even able to identify who the best projected players are. In small field, it's a different story. Small field, the guy that's 22% in large field that should be 28%, is like 40% in small field that should only be 34%. So now he's over-owned. So it's like, so in the large field contest, I'm more likely to, like, let me just play a lot of the chalk. Maybe not in combinatorially together. I'm not going to play 6 of the chalkiest plays all together in one lineup, probably. But I'll be probably playing a lot of them because they project the best, and I could get different elsewhere. Because they're going to be under-owned in large field contests. Even though they're the most owned, they're probably still under-owned. A lot of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Then in the small field stuff, a lot of those players are over-owned. So there's more benefit in fading them. So my small field, if you want to call 1,000 to 5,000 entries small field, my spy lineups, my red zone lineups, those types of stuff, may look weird. May look like, wow, you faded like 2 of the best plays on the slate in this lineup. I go, yeah, but I mean, it's not like I was playing like the bottom of the barrel stuff. I played all the second tier projected plays. I played a weird stack and then with the chalk, right? Something like that. And then you look at the large field lineups and you go, oh, these large field lineups don't really feel all that contrarian. Yeah, you got a piece here and a piece there, and you got 3 guys in your lineup that it's like, okay, you correlated that, whatever, but everything else kind of doesn't look that different. So yeah, because there's a lot of ownership on people that shouldn't have ownership, and there's 3 guys in this lineup that should be twice as owned as they should be, but they're not. So why aren't they playing? I'm just going to play. That's the difference. That's how contests are different from one another. The ownership is going to be different. The strength of the field is going to be different. The NFL Millie is the weakest field in all of DFS. There's so many bad lineups in it. A large field in NBA on a Tuesday may not be that weak. Not as weak as NFL. A random August Thursday MLB slate, like how much casual participation is happening then? Most likely you're playing against a lot of good players, even in the large field. The large field has 10,000 entries. More than half of them are going to be 150 maxers. So it's like you're playing against a pretty sharp field. So sharp field will have sharper ownership. So you have to adjust based on that. Nbot says, do you play if there's no projected ownership? Example being World Cup. RG didn't have projected ownership, so skip or play anyway. Well, soccer's my main sport, so I don't need to worry about ownership in soccer. Not saying that I don't do ownership in soccer. Just that I don't have to worry about it because I could project ownership myself in soccer. So I don't have to worry about soccer. But anything else, no, I would never play a sport where I couldn't project the ownership at minimum. That I didn't know it enough. Like people ask, oh, why don't you play college football? It's like I don't know anything about college football or college basketball. I go, I don't. But we have projections. I don't know the context of anything, and I wouldn't be able to. Well, how is the ownership change going to be? I don't know. I don't know any of that. I just don't know it. Why don't you play NHL? I don't know it. Not only that I don't know the sport, I just don't know the DFS landscape of how people react to certain things. how projections, how, oh, this thing's going to change, that the goalie's going to be out and people are going to play the second line from this team. I don't know. I don't know any of that context. And I'm the type of person, if I either I learn the context and spend the time to do that, or I just don't play. I want to get my money in good. So I don't mind playing less if I could constantly get my money in good. So I don't think in terms of, oh, there's nothing going on today, let me play NHL. Like, no, if I'm going to play NHL, I'm going to play NHL every day for an entire season. If I'm not willing to do that work, then I just don't do it. I don't play it. So soccer is my main, soccer is the sport I started with. So yes, I've been playing soccer DFS for over 7 years. It's what I played exclusively in the beginning. So yeah, I don't care about, I don't need projected ownership. I don't need projected ownership for soccer. I primarily play cash and small field GPPs in soccer anyway. So I don't even need to project the guy. Okay, this center back on this underdog is going to be like barely owned. Is he going to be 2% or 1%? Don't care. Like, I don't care about any of that. Like, I know it's like, I look at this and I go, okay, Kevin De Bruyne's about 64% owned. Trent Alexander-Arnold, he'll be 70% owned. I mean, like, I could do an EPL slate and go, okay, here's a group of people that are going to be very heavily owned. And here's a couple of people that are going to be like 10% owned or 15% owned. And then there's going to be a bunch of people that are like 2% owned. And most of the time, the people that are 2% owned, I'm not even playing because I'm playing in like 134-man, $300 GPP. So those 2% owned players, I don't even have to care that much about. Dave Clark says, this is one of the biggest things that I always miss, determining over-owned, under-owned for the contest that you're in. Yeah. Welcome to DFS. That's how you build plus EV lineups. You want to build lineups that have a higher equity in the payout structure based on the probabilities of the lineup placing over other lineups compared to what they're going to be owned in the contest. So you're getting points that your opponents aren't. Hingo A. Millie lineups are bad because they're looking to be different, giving the chance to be unique and win. Isn't that what you advise? No, that's not what I advise. You shouldn't look it. This is the point. Your goal is not to be different. Your goal is not to be unique. You're misconstruing what the goal is. You're thinking too feebly. Oh, I need to be different in the millionaire mix. Okay, let's do this. Hingo, I'm going to build a contrarian lineup for Sunday slate. Okay, for Sunday slate, for Saturday slate, because I have the NFL up. Okay, now I know we don't have projected ownership. We really, whatever. I'm not even sure if the projections are even, these are like the algorithmic whatevers. Okay, so I'm gonna build a lineup. Okay, now I can build this lineup. I'm gonna press the optimize button. Right, projection is 139.57. Okay, I can build this lineup if I want. Right, I could, but I'm not. I want to be different. Okay, I want to be very different. So I'm gonna build. Let's go here. I'm going to build Davis Mills. Well, not even Davis. Let's do Sam Darnold. Okay, I'm going to do a Sam Darnold stack. Sam Darnold on Carolina. I'm going to pair him with two receivers with Shi Smith, right, at 3K. And yeah, I got to play DJ Moore. I'll play DJ Moore. That's fine. And DJ Moore. I'm going to have a run back on Detroit. I'm going to play DJ Chark as my run back. Okay. Now I'm going to play, let's see, a running back. Okay, what running back do I play? I want to get different. Can't play McCaffrey, right? He's going to be owned. Kamara's going to be owned. Henry's going to be owned. I'm going to play different. I'm going to play Cordell Patterson in my running back spot. Baltimore's on the other side, so I'm going to play Mark Andrews on the other side of of both. So I have two sides of a game, right? I mean, that's what correlation. Why not? Okay. Now I'm going to play, let's see. Now what do I do? Running back, another running back, and a flex position. So I'm going to play another running back. I'm going to play, maybe I play Nick Chubb. Yeah, let me play Nick Chubb. No one's going to play Nick Chubb in a game with that low of a total or whatever. I'm going to play Nick Chubb. Then I want to play someone on New Orleans on the other side. Or maybe not even. I have a lot of money left. Who's in my flex? Who's in my flex going to be? I could pay up. I could pay up in my flex. Right? In this lineup, I'm going to play Steph Diggs. Or A.J. Brown. No one's going to play A.J. Brown with Hurts out. Well, that's a really sharp play. Right? Where did he go? Where did A.J. Brown go? A.J. Brown. Oh, there we go. Lock him in. I got 5,100 left. I'll just leave money on the table because that'll be different. And I'll play the Bills defense at 4,000. This is a different lineup. Right? Sam Darnold, a Carolina stack, right? Pay up a defense, leave 1,100 on the table. This is a very different lineup. It also projects for 39 points lower than the optimal lineup. 39 points lower. You know what? You're probably going to see this type of lineup in the millie. You're going to see lineups that look like this. And I could have changed this to anything. You're going to see lineups that literally project for 40 points lower than your lineups. They're different, and they're horrible. They're giving up way too much projection. You want to get different enough, not different. You want to get different enough. You're weighing the difference of projection versus ownership. But in the millie, because so many people are like, I need to play different. They're going to play a lineup like this. Like, dude, they're giving up 20 points. They're giving 20 points of projection for no reason. I can play a lineup that is as leveraged as this, that projects for 20 points higher. Those are the lineups that you should be playing, not just different lineups. Right? So unless you're looking to sacrifice 40 points, you shouldn't. I mean, those are bad lineups. But you're going to find 5 to 10% of the millie lineups are going to look like that. You won't find that in NBA or MLB, daily sports, with not as many bad players in it. The bad lineups aren't going to be that badly projected. But in NFL, you'll find that in the millie. So it's not about being different. It's about being different enough. Weighing the difference in projection versus ownership. So yes, you have to be different enough. Not just simply like, oh, I'm going to play the worst projected lineup possible. You're right, it's different. But it's the difference that it is doesn't make up for the fact that it's almost like playing with two less spots in your lineup. That's how low projected it is from a range of outcome standpoint. Daniel Hutchings says, so far the thing taking my time with NHL is managing scratches and line changes. Yes, that's what I've seen. I don't play NHL. Seems to be somewhere between MLB and NBA, but closer to MLB. Yeah, that's what it seems like to me. MLB is the easiest, right? He says minimal pain in the ass. Right, MLB I can play every day. MLB's no problem. Yeah, occasionally you don't have the Angels lineup or the Giants lineup isn't out. And Darren Ruff is in and not Jock Peterson or whatever the hell. Because they have that Lamont Wade isn't in. And you got to switch out one. You got to do something in those lineups because it hit lock. That isn't that big of a deal usually. You're just going to fit in the other player. Right? And if the salaries don't line up, then great. Now instead of having a 5-3 lineup, you have a 4-3-1. It's like, oh, the $3,200 player isn't in. So like what? Is there another $3,200 outfielder? Yeah, okay, give me that guy. And just swap, and that's it. And you're probably not giving up much doing that. Like, that's what happens in MLB. NBA is, NBA is like a full-time job. Right, Daniel says maybe 1 out of 10 MLB slates is a real pain. Usually it's the weekends. Usually like the Sunday afternoon stuff. That's typically the pain in the ass, right? Playing the Sunday 1:00, because what ends up happening on Sunday is number one, that these teams don't get the managers don't get the starting lineups in as quickly as you'd see in on a weekday night, and then also Sundays they tend to give, like, the catcher's playing is getting off because he caught the day before, or this guy's going to, like, they give guys off more. Some guy's going to be off on Sunday, and you're not going to know, right? It's going to be 10 minutes before lock, and you finally get, the 3:30 games lineups, and it's like, oh, Mike Trout isn't in, right? Or something like that, right? Oh, Freddie Freeman isn't playing first base today for the Dodgers. What happened there? Right? That you'll more likely get that on Sunday. Okay. Anything else before we get out of here? Discuss some random stuff today. Taught some things, right? Answered some questions. Isn't that bad? But all this type of stuff that I talk about is in the Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports. There's nothing else more than this. If you were to get both of these courses, the 15-hour Fundamentals Masterclass and the 6-hour Advanced Players course, which includes all the custom Excel tools, unless you're looking to reinforce knowledge, there's no need to watch the show anymore. Like, you could just listen to 21 hours. There's nothing more. There's nothing more to this. There's nothing more I can teach you. All I'd be doing is repeating myself. So that's it. That's all you need to do. I wish I had this back in 2015. I had to go through 400 hours of content. I had to spend 16 hours a day going through, picking and like, okay, what does that really mean? And then doing the math and going, yeah, that makes sense that way. And kind of relating a lot of stuff to poker. Oh, that's very similar to poker when you're, determining the range of your opponent's hands. I'm like, oh, okay, that's very similar to that. And you're kind of piecing the game theory together until once you start thinking in that mindset, then the sky's the limit at that point. Then everything's a probability. Everything's a spectrum. Everything's more likely, less likely. Players don't matter anymore. I mean, once you do that, it opens your eyes to everything. Now you could attack sports betting. You could attack prop betting. You could attack anything, any type of wagering or anything. Once you think any game, right? You can go sit down and play backgammon and go, okay, now I understand this game, right? Chess, maybe not so much. So chess is a game of perfect information. But that's it. Go to theoryofdfs.com, pick up the courses. Let me teach you. And then you always have a reference guide. You feel free to, people listen to chapters over and over again. That's what I did with poker books, right? I'd read poker books multiple times. You play, you read. You play, you read. You play, you read. You play, you read. And you get better. And you learn to do things in real time. Then it starts becoming instinctual. Then you just start knowing things. It's like, well, how did you know that this person was going to do X, Y? And it's like, I don't know. I've just been observant. I'm like, I know. It's like, okay, half the time he has this, and 25% of the time that guy has that. If I raise there 20% of the time, and this, and it becomes part of, like, just the nature of how you think. That the same thing could happen in DFS. So theoryofdfs.com. Travis Selby, Blender, can you export the CSV from Results DB to analyze sharp players with a contest reviewer? As if it's the normal DK CSV, yeah. That's the point. You could take a contest CSV from any DraftKings slate and put it in the contest reviewer. But I mean, essentially, the contest reviewer in Theory of DFS is quite similar to what Results DB is. The layout of the information you may like a little bit better. And it's obviously a little bit slower because especially if you're downloading the Millie and you're putting it into the Excel, you're probably gonna have to leave your computer for a couple of minutes, right? Because there's a lot of entries, so it's a little bit slower for a very large contest like that. But yes, you could just import any CSV from DK, as long as it's the contest CSV. So you can review anything you want there. Okie doke, hit the thumbs up button on your way out the door. Give me the thummy thumbs. First day of winter tomorrow, even though it's cold as hell here anyway, right? It's cold as hell anyway. Yeah, NBA coming up later today on the channel. NBA Grinders Live, the prop shop. I think the prop shop is coming up later today. There's a lot of stuff. We do tons of stuff. Food for thought with Carlucci and Will, and they do a podcast. It's a podcast feed. There's everything. Why aren't you subscribed to this channel? Why aren't you subscribed to RotoGrinders? Click on the link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. Remember, we got the main slate is on Saturday this week for NFL, but the content is all the same. I'll still be doing the Game Theory show on Friday, right? The premium show. We have no MMA. We have no MMA for pretty much a month. So Friday's just going to be casual Friday. It's going to be casual week. It's going to be, hey, it's the holiday season. Maybe we'll sing some Christmas carols or something. I have no idea. Whatever you want to do. Whatever it is you want to do, I'm here for you. Answering your DFS strategy questions. Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern. On the DFS pregame show. On RotoGrinders.com.